Resourceful Designer, episode 46. Take care of yourself, not just your business.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing.
And now, your host. He always finishes his salad before eating the rest of his meal, Mark DeCote.
Welcome, and thank you for joining me today for another episode of Resourceful Designer. I am happy to announce that today, the day I publish on September 30th, is the 1-year anniversary since I launched this podcast. Now, I chose this day because September 30th is actually International Podcast Day, which is why I chose to launch on this day last year, because I figured I'll never forget what day I launched and I'll never forget what day is my anniversary. And it just so happens that September 30th is the day that I'm launching this episode. So in honor of International Podcast Day, to help me celebrate, what you could do is head on over to iTunes and leave a review for this podcast and for any other podcasts you listen to. Podcasters love getting your reviews. And here are a few that I received recently. Carmilla in Australia wrote, "Brilliant. I discovered this podcast not too long ago and I'm loving it. The suggestions are very smart and thoughtful and very helpful. Thank you so much." And Sansakaitis from the US, I probably just butchered that name, but from the USA said, "I'm just starting my home graphic design business and came across your podcast a couple of weeks ago. After listening to that show, I had to go back and start at the beginning. Thank you for this resource. It has helped answer questions that I did not know I had." And a special shout out to Bermond from Cameroon, Africa. Bermond actually sent me an email because he doesn't have iTunes in his country, so he can't leave a review for me. So he sent me a lovely email, and at the end he said, "I hope you consider this as a review, as I wish I could give you 5 stars for the great inspiration and companion that your podcast has been to me. Please keep up the great work and keep keeping it real as you always have." Well, thank you to all of you and to everyone else who has ever left a review for the podcast. It is much appreciated. And as I said, today, the day I'm releasing this, might not be the day you're actually listening to it, but the day I'm releasing this episode is September 30th, International Podcast Day, the day to celebrate podcasting and podcasts. So why not head on over to iTunes and leave a review for your favorite podcasts, whether it's this podcast or any other podcast you listen to. It's a great way to say thank you to the podcaster who's putting in all the time and effort to produce their show. Now, because of it being International Podcast Day, I'm also going to maybe cheat a little bit and say that Resourceful Designer Podcast is my resource of the week this week. And what I'd love for you to do is share it with your fellow designers. If you know another graphic designer or web designer who you think can benefit from this podcast, please let them know about it. Give them a call, send them an email, or if you meet up with them, just tell them about this podcast and how much it's helping you and how much you think it could help them as well. And if they're wondering how they can get it, have them visit resourcefuldesigner.com/subscribe, and the various options to subscribe to the podcast are listed all there on that page. So I will be back in the next episode with a resource. I have a list of some that I still want to share with you, but because of International Podcast Day, I thought it best just to say that this podcast is the resource for this week, and I appreciate you tuning in. And now the topic for this week: take care of yourself and not just your business. You know, running your own graphic design business from home is great. I absolutely love doing it. I've been doing it for 11 years now, and I can't imagine doing anything else. It allows you so much freedom and flexibility to do the things the way you want, when you want, how you want. Because when you're running your own business, there's really nobody to tell you what or when to do things except for yourself. Yes, you have clients that you have to deal with, but really whenever you get off the phone with them or you finish the email or the meeting, the rest of the whole scheduling and how you're going to go about things is all up to you. There's nobody on your back telling you what to do. But today's topic, I want to talk about what happens when you're not there for your business. I mean, if something happens to you and you're not able to be there for your business, what's going to happen to it? Well, the obvious answer is your business is going to falter. It could sputter to a stop. It could actually fail depending on how much time you take away from your business. Now, I'm not talking about holidays, vacations, or things like that. What I'm talking about is days when you are sick, if you have an accident, a family emergency, even something as simple as jury duty, which could take you away from your business. Now, some of these things like family emergencies and accidents and, of course, jury duty or anything like that, they can take you away from your business, but really there's not a lot you can do to minimize those things. I mean, maybe you could kind of weasel your way out of jury duty, especially if you're running your own business and you could kind of get a sympathetic panel there and say that if you're in jury duty, you're losing money because your business is faltering. And it's not just an hourly wage, it's your entire business is faltering. And sometimes you can get out of jury duty that way. But it's pretty hard to tell the same whenever it's a family emergency or if you just get into an accident. But when it comes to being sick, either mentally or physically, there are things you can do to minimize those risks and to lessen the chances that your business will be affected. Now, there is a simple solution that you could do is just get business insurance to cover your time. But I know I looked into this myself, and I have liability insurance for my business in case I run into a problem, maybe with a print job and something happens to it. I have insurance to cover that sort of thing. Or if some sort of design, maybe whatever, I get sued for copyright or something like that, which I should know better. But if it happens, I've got insurance to help me cover those things. But you can also get a type of business insurance that'll cover you in case you have to take time away from your business for sickness or health issues. Now, I looked into this and I decided against it because, first of all, they're very expensive. And I found that there was too many limitations. They were listing what sort of ailments they would cover. So if you came down with cancer and you weren't able to work because you had to go through chemotherapy and all the different programs and that to try to help fight your cancer, and during that time you were too weak or you weren't able to work on your business, well, the insurance was listing if you had one type of cancer, they'd cover you, but if they had another type of cancer, they wouldn't cover you. And then it was what degree of cancer you got. If you were stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, or whatever, they would cover you under different cancers, under different stages. And it just got really, really complicated. And the price involved, I just figured it wasn't worth it. It was a few $100s every month just to cover on the off chance that I get sick. And I personally just decided that it wasn't worth it. If I got sick, I would just bite the bullet and I would lose some business. But maybe that's not an option for you. I have my wife that I can fall back on. She makes a good salary, and if need be, we could scrape by just on her salary for a while I recuperate. But you might not have that option. If you don't have a spouse or somebody that supplements your income and you're relying 100% on yourself, maybe some sort of health insurance to help you in case you are forced to take time away from your business might be an option. And where you are and who you get quotes from might be better than the time I tried. So it is something you can look into. But if I know you, if you're anything like me, you're probably going to say that health insurance for your business is just something that is not feasible at this time. It costs too much money and it's just not something to look into. So what do you do instead? Well, the best thing to do is to take care of yourself, both mentally and physically, because your health is vital to the success of your business. I mean, we're lucky that we work from home running a business, and if we're under the weather, if we have a little bit of a headache or a really bad cold or you come down with the flu, we can still sit down at our computer or grab a sketch pad and still get some work done. No, you may not be at your creative best if you have to run to the washroom every few minutes or if you've got that bucket next to you while you're working, just in case, if you know what I mean. No, you wouldn't be at your best, but sure, you could put in some hours and maybe get some stuff done. But even if you do, in those conditions, your business will be suffering because you are not at your best. So, what can you do about it? Well, as they say, prevention is the best form of medicine. If you take care of yourself, you are taking care of your business. So that means stuff like eating right, exercising, making sure you get enough rest, drink enough so that you're hydrated, or even simple things like washing your hands. There's a lot more to running your own business than just thinking about clients and about bookkeeping and invoicing and paying suppliers and the creative part of it. You've got to always keep in the back of your mind that you've got to take care of yourself because, as I mentioned earlier, you are your business. Now, I'm not ashamed to admit that when it comes to eating right, I'm not the best person to talk about it. I mean, I'm a little overweight. Well, I call it a little. My wife calls it a lot. I can afford to lose 40, maybe 50 pounds. And I am working at it very slowly, mind you, but I am working at it. But that is something that I think about in regards to my business. One of the reasons my wife wants me to lose weight, and not just my wife, one of the reasons I want to lose weight is that diabetes runs in my family. Right now, I'm lucky that I'm not diabetic, but my mother and my father and my older brother were all diagnosed in their late 40s or 50s, and I just turned 47 last week. So I've got to be really careful. So I'm consciously going to start watching my weight because I don't want to have something like that affect me. My mother's diabetes ended up affecting her kidneys and health-wise and other things, and she ended up on dialysis 3 times a week. Now, can you imagine what that would do to your business if 3 times a week you had to take 4 or 5 hours out of the day to go sit at a dialysis machine? Sure, I could bring a laptop and maybe try to get some work done, but after seeing my mom go through that, I don't think there'd be much energy involved. So that stuff you have to think about in your business is not just overweight and diabetes, but anything like that that may affect you. If you have stuff running in your family, it's even more important for you to be conscious about it and to take care of yourself. If you were working for somebody else, if you were an employee, chances are you might get sick days. Or if you had to take time off, you might get some sort of unemployment pay where they pay you a portion of your salary while you're recuperating. Unfortunately, when you're working from home or when you're self-employed, chances are you don't have that option. I know I'm not paying into some sort of unemployment insurance plan, so if I have to take time off, I don't get any money back. Even a percentage of my salary, I don't get anything like that. And you're probably in the same boat. I know it's not a fun thing to think about, but we really have to watch our health if we are running a business. So how do you go about doing that? Well, for one thing, regular doctor visits. I know some people don't like going to the doctors. I don't have an issue going with the doctor. I just often forget to go to the doctor. And sometimes it'll be a couple of years and then I realize, wow, I haven't visited the doctor in quite a while. Make sure you visit your doctor regularly. As I mentioned earlier, watch what you eat. Try to get in some exercise. We sit at our computers all day. I've mentioned before in the podcast how there have been some days where I sat down like at 9 o'clock in the morning, and next thing you know, my wife's getting home and asking what's for dinner, and I realized that I never got up from my chair. I skipped lunch, which is not healthy, and I spent the entire day sitting where not once did I get up. And that is not good for you. You got to take time throughout your day to schedule some quote-unquote self-care. Whether that's just getting up and stretching, taking a little walk through the house, taking time to do some meditation, or maybe reading a little bit, catching up on some magazines or books, or listening to podcasts. Put some time in your schedule to take care of yourself. I mean, when we're working at our business, we have so much demand put on us that we often neglect what we need. And by doing so, we can actually be making ourselves sick because we're trying to please everyone else. Because believe it or not, working too much can make you sick. By the nature of our business, we have the capabilities of working all hours of the day. If we want to get up super early in the morning and start working, we can. And if we want to work long into the evening, we can do that. Depending on your deadlines, you might even pull some all-nighters. And you know what? It's okay to do that. It's just not okay to do that all the time. I hear of designers sometimes that are putting in 14, 15, 16 hours a day, several days in a row, and I just don't understand why or how they can do that. As I mentioned, it's okay to do it from time to time, but if you keep up a schedule like that, you will work yourself into the ground, you will make yourself sick, both mentally and physically. And being mentally sick can be just as bad as physically sick. You don't want to have some sort of breakdown because you're not taking rests, you're not giving yourself a break, and you just have too much that you're thinking of. It can happen. I've seen it happen. So what do? When you're writing out your schedule of everything you have to do this today, tomorrow, this week, next week, schedule in some time for some little treats. I mean, it could be simple things like just going for a little walk to the park, or schedule your haircut. If you're somebody who likes to paint or sculpt, take a little bit of time during your workday to do that and de-stress, to relax. Ladies can schedule a manicure or pedicure or something like that, or even go out for a massage. You know what I found out? My next door neighbor is running a massage studio out of her house, and both my wife and my daughter have been. And even though I say I really have to go, a massage would do me so much good, I've yet to schedule an appointment to go see her. And I don't know why. It would be so easy to do it. Actually, you know what? I'm marking myself a note right now to give her a call when I'm done recording this podcast. I need to go for a massage. See, simple things like that. Going for a massage, treating yourself to a spa day, going out to a movie, going out to a concert. That sort of thing helps to rejuvenate and refresh yourself and prevents you from that mental breakdown of constantly working, constantly thinking about the job, constantly trying to be creative, because that is definitely not healthy. Because if that's what you're doing, all you're going to do is run yourself into the ground and you won't be able to accomplish anything. Now, if you're finding it hard to set up times throughout your day to do little things like this, why don't you just try doing it on a weekly basis as opposed to a daily basis? Maybe say, I won't work Friday afternoons. I'm going to take Friday afternoons to do something for myself. Or maybe it'll be Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday morning in midweek, so you can take yourself a little break there. And it doesn't always have to be the same thing. Maybe you can schedule some other things throughout the month. I have a lunch date with a couple of friends of mine. We go out the first Wednesday of every month. And it's something we've been doing for years. These are a couple of buddies of mine from college days. And even though we get together from time to time throughout the month, our families will go together, we'll do stuff. The three of us always make sure that the first Wednesday of every month is reserved for us to go meet for lunch. And we go out, different restaurant every time, sit down, have a nice meal, talk, and just unwind, relax, unburden ourselves. Talk about our businesses. They're not graphic designers, but we'll talk about what's happening in our business. And that sort of stuff helps rejuvenate. Call somebody up and just go out for a coffee or something. Take the time to refresh yourself. And in doing so, you're also going to refresh and rejuvenate your creative juices, which will benefit your business big time. Now, I know what you're saying. You're saying this all sounds well and good, but I've got so much to do, so much on my plate that I don't have time to do any of this. But you know what? Taking care of yourself, both mentally and physically, is more important than checking things off your to-do list. Because if you're sick, if you're in bed with a high fever, some flu, or whatever, I guarantee your to-do list is not being looked at. And it's been proven that people that are overworked and run down and overtired are more susceptible to catching a bug or catching a virus and coming down with something. So take care of yourself. Because your health is the base of your business. Without your health, your business will not succeed. It will not thrive. It will falter. So eat a good breakfast every day. Try to eat healthy snacks during the day. Remember to get up, stretch, look around. Even if it's just for 2-3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10-15 minutes would be best. But even if it's just for a couple of minutes to get up, stretch your muscles, look out the window, go take a breath of fresh air, and then get back to work. Giving your mind and your body a break from being creative, even for short periods of time, will actually help increase that creativity and help your business. If you're a morning person, schedule a workout or maybe a meditation session before you go to work. Now, that's definitely not me. I am not a morning person. I have a tough time getting up in the morning. But maybe you don't. Maybe you're one of those people that likes getting up at 6 a.m. before everybody else does in the household. Well, take that time to do a little workout, go for a walk, read a book, meditate, listen to a podcast. Just take some time for yourself to help your body, your mind heal and take care of itself. If you're not a morning person, you can take some time at lunch. Take an hour in the middle of the day or 45 minutes in the middle of the day. Yes, you need some time to eat and have your lunch, but instead of just goofing around the rest of the time, why not do a workout? They say you can do a pretty good workout in 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day. Well, your lunchtime is perfect for that. And the added benefit of doing that is if you do a workout at lunch, you'll actually have a renewed and boosted energy to help you get through that afternoon. It'll also give your brain time to process everything that you've worked on in the morning, and you can contemplate everything that's coming up in the afternoon. And again, with that extra energy, the adrenaline and the endorphins that are going because of the workout, you'll be much more prepared to take on those afternoon tasks. And if that doesn't work for you, take some time in the evening to do something. Because when you're healthier and you're stronger, you're better able to serve your clients, you're better able to serve your business, and you're better able to spend time with your family and do stuff with them. Because at the end of the day, when you step away from your workstation, you get up from your easel, you get away from your computer, your sketch pad, whatever it is, when you step away from that, you don't want to be so drained that all you want to do is sit down and pass out. You want to be able to have enough energy and feel healthy enough to be able to do stuff with friends and family. because life's just too short to always spend it working. And if you do find yourself with way too much to do and not enough time to take time for yourself, remember what I said in episode 42. It's okay to say no. You don't have to do every little task that your friends, your families, and your clients request of you. You be the judge of what's important, what really needs to be done, and say no to the rest, and save time for yourself. So that's what I wanted to talk about this week, is just how you're putting so much into your business. So much effort, so much time, so much passion and devotion to your business. It would be a shame for that business to falter because you weren't taking care of yourself the same way you were taking care of the business. And if your health fails mentally or physically, when it was something that could have been prevented by you simply taking care of yourself, you're just going to be angry at yourself for letting it happen. So take care of yourself and not just your business. And now I'm happy this week to bring back the question of the week. I've skipped the last couple of episodes, not because I didn't have any questions. I do have a few questions in the can. But if you have a question about running a graphic design business that you would like to ask me, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/feedback, where you can post your question and I'll add it to my list. Now, this week's question comes in from Sarah. So Sarah's question is, my pricing packages state that printing and other vendor expenses are charged separately. How do you best charge for those items after the hours have been used? Do you also give a list of hours to the clients of how they were used? And when you give estimates, do you give them in hours? Well, thanks for the question, Sarah. Everybody does this differently. Now, I can tell you that personally, I never quote anything in hours. I will bill something by the hour, but if somebody asks me for a quote, I will just give them what the total price is. I will say, you need a brochure design, you need a website design, here's the total price. I don't give them a breakdown of how many hours that is. I just tell them what the price is. And I have never, in my entire career, I have never given a breakdown of my time to a client. My way of thinking is, my client doesn't need to know how much time I spent on each aspect of the job. They just need to know, if I'm billing by the hour, they just need to know how many hours I've put into it. And that's just the way I've always done it. Now, I could tell you that for years, I never quoted on a job. Now, you may find that strange or hard to believe, but I never quoted on a job. When somebody came to me and said, I need something done, and this was back when I was billing by the hour. Now I do more billing by the project and some value-based pricing. And if you want to know more about those different strategies, look at episode 11 of the podcast, Pricing Strategies for Your Graphic Design Business. But back when I was billing by the hour, I would tell somebody, you want me to design a brochure? This is my hourly rate. And whatever time I spend designing it, that's how much you're going to pay me. Now, some people were worried, and if they would say, well, what happens if, I want you to design something simple and you come back and you say 10 hours or something like that? Well, often what I would say to a client is, I would calculate myself, not let them know, but I would calculate myself how much time I think it would take and then pad it a little bit. And then I would come up to them and say, listen, I'll charge you by the hour up to a maximum of, and then I give them a dollar figure. So as an example, say my rate was $60 an hour. That's not what I actually charge, but let's just use that as an example. $60 an hour. I would tell the client, you want me to design this trifold brochure for you? I will charge you $60 an hour for the actual amount of time it takes me to do the brochure, up to a maximum of $500. I guarantee my price will not go over $500 because in my mind, I've already calculated everything that needs to be done. And maybe I think I can do it in 5 hours. So that would be $300 if I actually do it in that time. But I've given myself that leeway by telling the client I will not go over $500. So they know I have a maximum, but now they have the benefit of knowing that if I take less time, it will cost them less. And I've gotten a lot of clients that have really liked this method, especially when I say I won't go over, say, $500. And then if I come back and say, well, here's my invoice for $275, they're like, wow, I was expecting, that it would go up to $500 and that you would be up there, but you're charging me $275 because that's the amount of time it took me. So that's the way I did it for many years in my business. And as I said earlier, I rarely had somebody ask me for a fixed price. And I would actually tell the client, I'll give you a fixed price, but if I give you a fixed price, it's going to be more expensive than if I just do it by the hour because I have to pad things and calculate extra things into it. So if you want me to give you a fixed price, you're going to pay more expensive than if I just bill you by the hour. But in some cases, a few clients did want the fixed price, in which case I would tell them, okay, the brochure is going to cost you $500. And they agreed to that price. And if it only took me 5 hours to do and it would have cost them $300, I just made an extra $200 on the job. So that's the way I used to do it. As I said, now it's more project based. So I'll look at the brochure and now I'll just give them a price and I'll say it's $500. And if I manage to design it in a couple of hours that would have only cost $150, then I just made a whole bunch of money extra. But you also got to watch out, because if I give them a quote of $500 and for some reason it goes over, then I'm losing money on that. Now, I also have to let you know that I have never, ever in my career told a client that it's going to be X amount for the project and then so many revisions. I have never believed in that method. And I know it's a method that is used so often that you get 2 or 3 revisions. And that I would much prefer have the client get exactly what they want. And if that takes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 revisions, so be it. And in those cases, now there might be times where I will tell the client that we are going over what we originally quoted, and if we keep doing revisions, then I'll have to charge you more. But I have never limited the clients to how many revisions they were allowed to do. In the end, this is their project that I'm working on for them. And if it takes a dozen revisions to get it just the way they want it, and to be happy with the work I did, I'd much rather do it that way. Now, as far as the printing and vendor expenses, in some cases, I would work them into the price. Not the printing, but say vendor, like if I was going to include any sort of stock photography or stock illustration, I would just include that in the price. I mean, most of them are so cheap these days. You can buy stuff for just a couple of bucks that I wouldn't even bother charging the clients most of the time, unless it was something really big. I remember one client I had, it was a tourism office, and they wanted a specific photo and they wouldn't take anything that was similar. They wanted a specific photo they had found, and from the site, I think it was like $800 was the fee for the photo. And that was something they insisted on, that one photo. I don't know why, because I could have found many, many similar ones, but for some reason they liked that one photo and they paid the extra $800. And I charged them on top of that. I told them that I would include a regular stock photo, but if you want that specific photo that costs that much, then I'm going to bill you separately for that one. And they agreed to that. Now, in my experience, printing has always been charged separately. I charge for the design, I quote for the design, and if they want printing included, then I will give them a separate quote for the printing and I invoice them separately. Or it would be a separate item on the invoices for the printing. And I've mentioned before in the podcast that I do a lot of print brokering. Sometimes I will just give a price if I'm using, say, a trade-only printer. That's a printer that doesn't deal with the general public. They'll only deal with agencies and designers. I'll get a price from them and then I'll mark it up whatever percentage and then give that price to my client. Or a lot of times, as I said, I've got deals with local printers where they give me a discount for me bringing work to them. So when they give me a quote for the job, I know that whatever quote they give me, I get, like say one printer gives me a 15% discount. So if they give me a quote for say $100, I'll just round it off, $100 to print something, I know that I actually only have to pay them $85, but I can take that quote, show it to my client and say, here's how much the job's going to cost to print. It'll cost you $100. And the client would then pay me $100 and then I would turn around and pay $85 to the printer and I would make $15 on the job. So printing, as far as I'm concerned, and vendor expenses, anything like that is always charged separately. And any job that I've quoted, and if I'm going to go over the time that was specified, then I would just let the client know. So even in the cases that I said, the job, I'll charge you by the hour, I'll bill you by the hour, but I won't go over a certain price. Like say it was $500, I won't go over $500. If it gets to the point, because the client keeps asking for revisions or keeps coming back with changes and they're altering the specs of the job and it's going to go over that $500, I will warn the client that we're now approaching the point where I said it would be a maximum of $500, but you've changed the stuff so much that we will be going over that. Now, never wait till the point where you're there or you've gone over to let them know. I always let them know beforehand. Like if the price is getting up around the $400 mark, say, then I would tell them that, we're running out of time. If we don't get it done, then I will have to charge you extra. But as long as you give them ample notice and upfront, you tell them that you are going to charge a maximum of this price for the specs that we are quoting on. If those specs change, if the scope of the job changes, then that price becomes renegotiable. But as far as giving a list of hours or breaking things down, I have never in my career ever broken down my hours to a client on how I use those hours, whether I was working in Photoshop, whether I was looking for fonts, looking for stock photos, consulting, research. That's my business, how I spend my time. My clients don't need to know how it's all broken up. They just need to know how much they need to pay me at the end. So that's the way I do it, Sarah. I know many designers do it differently. And I don't know if this helps you at all. Maybe send me an email and let me know if this actually helped you. And if anybody else has a question or something to say about this, just visit resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 46 and leave a comment in the show notes. The comment doesn't have to be about the rest of the episode. The comment could be about this week's question from Sarah. Do you have a different way of charging for extras and printing and that sort of stuff? Or do you itemize everything by the hour for your client? I would love to know. So leave a comment on the show notes page. So thank you, Sarah, for that question. And once again, if you have a question you'd like me to answer, visit resourcefuldesigner.com/feedback. Now, next episode, I'll be talking about bartering your services. But until then, once again, I'd love for you to help celebrate International Podcast Day by leaving reviews for all the podcasts you listen to, and share Resourceful Designer with any designers or web designers, graphic designers, anybody you know that may benefit from it. I would love for you to share it with them. And I'm sure they would love it too. Oh, and I almost forgot, the Facebook group for Resourceful Designer is growing. We're having some great conversations talking about different things about graphic design business and the way we run things and what jobs we're currently working on. Some great conversations going there. So if you would like to join the Facebook group, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/group, and that will redirect you to the page where you can join our Facebook group. So thank you once again for tuning in this week. I always appreciate the time you spend with me as we grow as graphic designers. Until next time, I am Mark DeCote, wishing you all the best with your graphic design business. And as always, reminding you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer Podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.